This is part 2 to my cat on pets and the attack of the talking toilets. Read aloud. Let's do this. Chapter 5, Bigger and Better Things. George and Harold went to the other end of the gymnasium, opened their backpacks, and began to work. George busied himself by turning all the spray nozzles on the atomic dog washer around, while Harold filled up the soap tank with Indiana ink. Then they moved on to the volcano detector. Will you please pass me the big bag of butterscotch pudding and the Phillips head screwdriver? Asked Harold. Sure, said George as he carefully inserted eggs into the ping-pong servo-matic. Chapter 6, The Invention Convention. The following day started out sunny and cheerful. The students and faculty filed into the gymnasium and checked the seats very carefully before sitting down. Greetings, said Mr. Cup, who was standing up at the microphone. You don't need to worry about sticky seats today, he said. I've taken measures to ensure that this invention convention won't be a disaster like last year's. Everyone settled in as Madison Mancini, a third grader, stepped on stage to demonstrate her atomic dog washer. First, said Madison, you put your dog in the tub. Then you press the button. Madison pressed the start button. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly a spurt of inky black water sprayed up and out over the crowd. Everyone except the dog got soaked as Madison tried desperately to turn off the sprayers. I can't stop it, she cried. Someone turned all the nozzles around. Now who could have done that? Asked Mr. Krupp. Next up was Donnie Shomier with his ping-pong servo-matic. He turned the machine on and immediately it began hurling extra-large grade A eggs into the crowd. Foop, foop, foop went the machine. Splat, 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 splat. Splat went the eggs. I can't turn the machine off, cried Donnie. Somebody jammed a paper clip into the controller. Now who could have done that? Asked Miss Ribble. Freddie Moore's volcano detector was also a big flop. When Freddie connected the circuits to the 9-volt battery, a large spring, which had been crammed into the center of his miniature volcano, launched a plastic bag of butterscotch pudding high into the crowd. It landed somewhere between the third and fourth rows. Splat! Hey, whined Freddie. Somebody put pudding in my volcano. Now who could have done that? Asked Mr. Meaner. Boing. The rest of the day went on much the same way, with people shouting everything from, hey, who put oatmeal in my solar-powered leaf blower? To, hey, who let all the mice out of my treadmill dune buggy? It wasn't long before everyone fled the gymnasium, and the second annual invention convention had to be called off. How could this have happened? Cried Mr. Krupp as he wiped chocolate syrup, pencil shavings, and cream of mushroom soup off his face and shirt. George and Harold had been in study hall all day long. I put them there myself. Excuse me, Mr. Krupp, said Melvin sneedly. I think I have an answer to your question. Chapter 7, Busted. Crash! Went the door to the study hall room. Mr. Cup stomped in like a crazy person. George and Harold had never seen him this upset before. You boys are in so much trouble, Mr. Cup shouted. I'm putting you two on permanent detention for the rest of the school year. Wait a second, cried George. You can't prove anything. Yeah, said Harold. We've been here all day. But Mr. Cup smiled devilishly and looked toward the door. Oh, Melvin, he called. Melvin nearly stepped into the room covered in mustard, eggshells, and shredded coconut. They did it, Melvin said, pointing at George and Harold. I saw him last night in the gym. Melvin, cried George, horrified. You promised. I changed my mind, Melvin said, grinning smugly. Have fun in detention. Chapter 8, The Invention Convention Detention. After school, Mr. Cup ushered George and Harold into the detention room and wrote a long sentence on the chalkboard. From now on, growled Mr. Krupp, you boys will spend 2 hours a day after school copying this sentence over and over. I want every chalkboard in this room filled completely. On his way out the door, Mr. Krupp turned and said with an evil grin, and if either of you leaves this room for any reason, I'm going to suspend you both. Now, as you might have guessed, writing sentences was nothing new to George and Harold. The two boys waited until Mr. Krupp left the room. Then they each took 4 homemade wooden rods out of their backpacks. The rods had holes in them that George and Harold had drilled in. The rods had holes in them that George and Harold had drilled in George's dad's wood shop. George screwed the rods together while Harold inserted a piece of chalk into each hole. Then they each took a pole and began copying Mr. Krupp's sentence. Every time they wrote one sentence, the wooden poles made 12. After about 3.5 minutes, every chalkboard in the room was completely filled. George and Harold sat down and admired their work. We've got a lot of time on our hands now, said George. Got any ideas? Let's make a new comic book, said Harold. So the two boys took out some paper and pens and created an all-new adventure about their favorite superhero. It was called Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilet. Chapter 9, Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets. One day at school, everything was pretty normal. The lunch ladies were serving toasted rat sandwiches, the principal was yelling, blah, 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 and the gym teacher was being mean to everybody. My grandma can run faster than you guys. Then a UFO appeared. It zapped the school with an evil ray. The ray made all the toilets come to life. It made them evil, too. The toilets were hungry. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. So they ate the gym teacher. Help, the toilet just scratched somebody's car and ate up the gym teacher. Lord have mercy. Was it my car? This looks like a job for Captain Underpants. Crash! Captain Underpants ran to the storage room. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. He found a bunch of plungers. He put them in the toilets. Their mouths got stuck. Tra-la-la. Hooray for Captain Underpants. Now to stop that evil UFO. Captain Underpants went outside and saw the UFO. It opened up, click, and out jumped the Turbo Toilet 2000. I'll flush you. They had a big fight. Captain Underpants was faster than a speeding waistband. Zip, more powerful than boxer shorts. Tra-la-la, kick, and able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Captain Underpants snuck up behind the Turbo Toilet 2000 and gave him a wedgie. Wedgie power, ouchie! Then he hung the TT 2000 on a stop sign and pulled back hard. Stretch! Then he let go. Twang! Kaboom! The spaceship blew up and all the toilets returned to normal. Hooray! Even the gym teacher escaped. Aw, man. The end. Chapter 10, A Big Mistake. George and Harold sat together in the detention room, reading through their newest comic book and beaming proudly. We've got to go to the office and make copies of these, said George, so we can sell them on the playground tomorrow. We can't, said Harold. Don't you remember? Mr. Club said he'd suspend us if he caught us leaving this room. Then he won't let him catch us, said George. George and Harold sneaked out of the room quietly and crawled down the hall to the office. Uh-oh, said Harold. There's a bunch of teachers in there. We'll never get to use the copy machine. Said George. Are there any other copy machines in the school? How about the one that Melvin had in the gym, asked Harold. Oh, yeah, said George. George and Harold crept over to the gym and found the Patsy 2000. I wonder if this machine still makes copies, said Harold. Melvin did say that he had made some adjustments to it. Oh, he probably just crammed a mouse in there to fool us, said George. It's the oldest trick in the book. I'm sure the machine still makes regular copies. George placed the cover of their new comic book face down on the glass screen and pressed start. All at once, the lights in the whole school dimmed, and the Patsy 2000 began to shake and clunk around wildly. Giant volts of static electricity zapped out the bottom of the machine as a great whirlwind rose from the top. Loose papers and other small objects in the room were sucked into the wind, and they spun above the machine like a raging cyclone. I don't think it's supposed to do this, shouted George over the horrible noise. Finally, after a series of flashes and loud zaps, the noise, wind, and sparks stopped altogether. The only sound that could be heard was of something groaning and clawing about inside the bloated, battered frame of the Patsy 2000. It sounds like something is alive inside there, said Harold. George snatched the comic book from the top of the machine. Let's get out of here, he cried. Just then, a small ding was heard, and a full-size, shiny white toilet emerged from the side of the Patsy 2000. Its teeth were sharp and jagged, and its angry eyeballs glowed with red, swelling veins. Yum, yum, eat 'em up, cried the evil toilet. Almost immediately, another talking toilet emerged, followed by another and another and another. Yum, yum, eat 'em up, they cried. Oh no, Melvin was right. The photoatomic transubglobulating ectofan plutonic ziptomizer really does create living, breathing, three-dimensional copies of two-dimensional images, Harold cried convulsively. I've got an idea, said George. What? asked Harold. Run! cried George. Chapter 11, the Invention Convention Detention Suspension. George and Harold screamed and ran out the gym door, closing it tightly behind them. Aha! yelled Mr. Krupp, who was just coming down the hall. You boys left the detention room. You know what that means, don't you? It wasn't our fault, cried Harold. Too bad, Mr. Krupp shouted with delight. You boys are officially suspended. Wait, cried George, you've got to listen. Behind this door is an army of evil, vicious talk. I don't have to listen to you boys ever again, laughed Mr. Club. Now get your stuff and get out of this school. But, Harold stammered, you don't understand. Get out! Mr. Club screamed. George and Harold groaned and walked to their lockers to collect their stuff. Gosh, said Harold, and one day we've gotten a detention, a suspension, and we've created an army of evil talking toilets who want to take over the world. That's a pretty bad day, even by our standards, said George. Oh, well, said Harold, I just hope things don't get any worse. Chapter 12, Things Get Worse. Word spread quickly throughout the office that George and Harold had been suspended. The teachers rushed out to cheer and laugh at the two boys. You're in big trouble now, chuckled Misanthrope. I can't wait to call your parents and tell them the news. Let's take their desks outside and chop them up, cried Miss Ribble. Let's throw a party in the gym, shouted Mr. Meaner. No, cried George, whatever you do, don't open the door to the gym. We could do whatever we like, snarled Mr. Meaner as he dashed over to the gymnasium door. Look, I'm opening the door. He quickly opened the gym door. Now I'm closing the door, he said. Now I'm opening the door again. Now I'm mumbling, claw. An evil toilet had stuck its mouth through the door, snapped Mr. Meaner up, and swallowed him whole. Flush! The talking toilets then pushed their way through the open gymnasium doors and spilled out into the hallway. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. The toilets bellowed. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. Claw. The teachers couldn't believe their eyes. They screamed and ran for their lives. Only Mr. Club, Miss Ribble, and George and Harold remained frozen in fear. They watched paralyzed as the talking toilets came nearer and nearer. Finally, Miss Ribble pointed at the toilet and snapped her fingers. Snap! Go away, she cried. Go away this minute! But the toilets didn't listen. They moved closer and closer. Snap! Finally, Miss Ribble turned and ran. Mr. Club, however, just stood there in a daze. George and Harold looked up at him. Uh-oh, said Harold. Did she just snap her fingers? Yup, said George, and now we're really in trouble. And George was right, for at that moment, Mr. Club had begun to change. A silly heroic smile came over his face as he stood defiantly before his foes. I'll put a stop to you vile villains, he said fiercely. But first, I need some supplies. Mr. Cup turned and dashed to his office. George and Harold ran after him. Why did Miss Ribble have to snap her fingers? Cried George. Why? Never mind that, cried George. Mr. Clupp is turning into Captain Underpants. We've got to pour water over his head before it's too late. Chapter 13. It's too late. Okay, I'm going to stop here on Chapter 13, guys, okay? And bye-bye.